Thank you. So I don't think that we really have an agenda. This is just the informal Q&A. So we don't have anything specific to chat about. Janet, how are you doing? You're the only you're the only kind of library here, so would love to hear.
Okay. Well, I'm actually kind of in the dark. I had just started to look into this. We had a couple of emails saying it's happening, and we had some of the directors in our library consortium, Library Connection, had an email going around saying, are we supposed to do something? What is it? I don't feel like we exactly know what's going on. I don't know where we're missing out on the memo. So figured I'd jump in, see what's being said. Hello, Brad. Okay.
Awesome. I mean, we can share with you a little bit about what SimplyE is. Are you familiar with SimplyE at all, or like a little bit?
I know what it is. Basically, it's an app to, get into the ebooks and things. Basically,
right,
I just planned to look at it today and haven't looked yet. But.
Yeah, it's an open source app that's designed to be able to allow you to bring all of your collections just into one app. So patrons don't need to go to First and Overdrive app or a Baker and Taylor, whatever, all the different places. They can just go into one place and get all your collections in one easy place. That's what SimplyE is. I don't know, Brad, would you like to talk a little bit about what the state library's role has been and kind of what your plans are with your collection that you're building up as well?
Sure. So we started rolling the app out to libraries. Chris and I came up with a phased plan to start rolling the app out so libraries could offer it to their patrons back in February. And so we have since enrolled, I think we're up to 75 libraries, if I'm not mistaken, or close to it, that have gone live in the app. There are 150 that are configured. I don't have the list up to see if Portland is configured or where you're at, but Chris is going to.
Yep, I'll chat about specific next steps for you, Janet, once Brad gives the overview.
So we have over 23,000 items that are available in SimplyE for you to deliver to your patrons from various vendors. And we've done a number of information sessions. We started doing sessions back in November of 2019. So we put messages out on the listservs for libraries to join us for information sessions. The last ones we did were in November of 2020. And those recordings are available on our EGO website. So I can send you that information so that you can take a look at that. But I have a sort of a basic informational email that I can put together and send you all the information that you need to have to take next steps in moving forward in the app.
And that's a good segue, specifically for your library, Janet. Portland, gosh, over several years ago now, LYRASIS had worked with the systems administrator at LCI. I'm blanking on his name. He's a wonderful gentleman. Anyway, and we got all of the LCI member libraries initially configured in kind of the back end system. So Portland Libraries is almost entirely configured. In terms of immediate next steps, if you wanted to, launch into production tomorrow, not that you necessarily would have to, but it would be a minimal information that I would need. I don't have your library's logo. I don't have the specific patron support email address for your library. And that's really it in terms of the outstanding information for your library. I have in terms of the content for your library that I've configured, specifically for your patrons. Of course, you have all of the Connecticut collections that Brad is curating from the state, and then as well as your the LCI Overdrive shared collection, as well as your individual Overdrive Advantage collection. I haven't looked at your website probably in the past year, but if you've added a Baker and Taylor collection at your library, that would be something I could add. If you had one, again, 2 years ago when we initially configured those, I did my due diligence and looked at all the library websites to make sure I had all the collections. But if it's changed recently, that could be something we could add. But really, all of the hard work, the configuration work for your library is done. So other than just a patron support email address and a logo, you could be ready to go tomorrow. next week, next month. Really, the timing is at your discretion.
Very good. That sounds good. Is Hoopla, which is that kind of pay per view, would that come into this, or?
Hoopla is not a provider that we can configure quite yet.
Sure.
It's something that many libraries have talked about, but it's just not, from a technology perspective,
Changes.
Hoopla doesn't have an API that we can integrate with yet. And of course, as you know, their business model is a little bit different. So we
It's
have
different.
to think about how that would work in SimplyE. But it is something that I'm optimistic in the next year or two will be available in SimplyE. We're just not there yet.
Okay. And then I know there's a magazine collection that LCI is in the middle of kind of negotiating something with Overdrive. So I guess eventually that'll be on there too. But
yeah, magazines are not a supported
okay.
format yet. Right now, SimplyE is just ebooks and e-audiobooks. But that, along with Hoopla, the RB Digital magazines in particular have been a highly requested integration. So those are kind of the two probably highest priority, I would say, of all of the other sources of content in the world. Those are the two that come up the most.
Good. Thanks.
Awesome. Does that answer your questions, Janet? You're good?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's good.
Fantastic. Great. And then Patrick came on. Hi, Patrick. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So
What can we help?
let me introduce myself and ask kind of a very broad question, not really a SimplyE question, but so I am the cataloger and the tech guy at a small public library, Deep River Public Library, down along the Connecticut River. And I've been waiting for SimplyE for several years. I kind of it was on my radar screen as an IMLS project quite a while ago. As a way of solving the problem, there are a lot of problems of dealing with users who are using e-media of one way or another. The weirdest one is, who are they? Because it's all kind of hidden behind barcodes and so on, and trying to figure out, so how do we, in a small community, there are 5,000 people in the town of Deep River, more or less. There may be on a, and we kind of float around, is it 25 or 30 active users, and what's happened with COVID and so on and so forth. So specifically about SimplyE, Carissa and I have been working, and I've been trying to fit this into my very busy COVID time of what day is it? And I guess where I am is on the circulation manager and trying to figure that out and what it has that I can use in a way of connecting more directly with our identified user community. So we're kind of looking through the dashboards from the various RB Digital and Overdrive and so on and so forth, and figuring out who these people are and directly sending them emails about what SimplyE is and how we see it fitting into the solution of connecting folks to the variety of materials. So I guess the circulation manager has a big part of that. You guys have done a really wonderful job of narrowing all the options down, quite frankly, to fiction, nonfiction, YA, and so on and so forth. And I don't think right now there's any need to fiddle around with that. I guess, and again, this is a real general problem, and I'm using this opportunity to kind of put it out there. I'm still trying to figure out what path to initially direct my user community down. Yesterday I was on a walk with a colleague, and he was doing some research, and he went to Libby and didn't find it on Libby. And more now, I'm thinking that perhaps we should be directing our user community first to the Biblio ILS, because there's a lot of stuff there, right? Including things that are on Hoopla and so on. And, you know, if you wanted to look at this as a reference question, where would you send them first? And I think the ILS probably is as good an idea as anything else, rather than kind of getting them into the notion of, I'm always going to find everything I want on Libby or on SimplyE or whatever it is. So do y'all have thoughts about that? I mean, it's kind of fundamental, but it seems that we're getting to the point where the e-readers are standardized more or less. The e-media are standardized more or less. The privacy issues about who our users are still there. So we're going to have to kind of do a back-end hack of that and figure out who they are and do those, and then a more global blast of what's going on to those folks who don't have a clue about it yet, although there aren't many of them, frankly, who want to do it and haven't kind of worked through the processes of making the connection. I keep having this image, especially in this COVID time and being a retiree, of people who are stuck in their houses and they're tired of watching crap on television, and they want to listen to somebody read them a book, which is lovely, and not being able to do it. And that's it's kind of heartbreaking in a way, and yet it's a real good goad to solve the problem. So tell me what you think.
Well, this is a bigger discussion to be having. Like you said, this is kind of, I don't know that we're going to solve that here.
No,
and it's
we won't
more of
solve it, but a dialogue would be good.
Yeah, the catalog would be good, but you know, I think that's also the whole, what SimplyE, like you said, it's been on your radar for a while. What it was designed for was
Right.
to make it easy and integrating everything together. So I think SimplyE would probably be a good place, because the thing with the e-media is it's not all going to be in your catalog.
Right.
Not all the SimplyE stuff is going to be in your catalog, but I think a lot about what you said too. My stepmom is in her mid 70s and she has a Nook, and her library has Libby, and she can't figure, she's gone to classes, she's had a librarian teach her how to do it. She can't figure out how to get books on her Nook through Libby. And, you know, she winds up just buying them or going and getting the physical copy at the library. And I think a lot about, you know, how that could be solved with, if her library had SimplyE, it would be much easier for her to be able to do that. So I think it also kind of depends on what you're trying to have. Like, obviously all of the library collections will be in the catalog, but not all of the, but all of the e stuff will be in SimplyE, the ebooks at least, and not all of the e stuff will be showing up in the catalog.
Right.
So it's having to make this choice about, you know, directing people to the catalog for the stuff that's in the library, for the titles that they can get in the library, and knowing that not all of the ebooks are gonna, and e-audiobooks are gonna come up. But if they search in SimplyE, most of that's, like the Hoopla stuff isn't, but most of that stuff is going to. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on this? Now I'm starting to ramble.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, one of the concepts of SimplyE is that, you know, it's app-based. So it's on your Android, it's on your iOS device, you know, your Apple device. And basically we're putting in content from multiple vendors into SimplyE. So while it's not completely comprehensive, you know, most of the e-content that the state purchases and that the consortiums purchase, you know, it's all contained there. So if you can sort of get the concept out to your patrons that if you download the app, you know, it's a free app, it's open source, it's It's constantly evolving and new content is being added in. But it's a great place for your ebook and e-audio needs to all be satisfied. And I think the key, that the state content is there, and then the consortium content, that it's all in one place. I think that's huge because so many libraries can't really afford to pay for their own collections anyway. So you're
Right.
getting the key resources that are in SimplyE made available to your patrons. And, that's a lot of content. I think when you combine the state content with the consortiums, you get up to around almost 40,000 items, if not more. So for me as a patron to have access to that amount of content, it's absolutely wonderful. And the fact that I don't have to go to multiple apps to get at it, I think is another key thing. Granted, Hoopla's not there yet, but the beauty of the open source aspect of this is that we're constantly evolving and we're constantly bringing in new features and content. So, the positive growth that will occur over time is a selling point to your patrons as well.
Absolutely. I think that's the key for SimplyE, is that it's by library / librarians. It's working with what the library community knows about how users interact with it. And I think that's the key part of it. This has been helpful. I mean, I think the other part of it is, I think somebody said, I think it was Carissa said, Hoopla's got a different business model. And a lot of this whole thing is dealing with business models, always. How does the library deal with the publisher and the middleman or middle, So, all right, well, that's helpful. We'll see how it goes. I still wish that, well, I'm looking forward to kind of digging a little bit further into I'm really kind of caught on this whole kind of thing of the user and how to really kind of, it would be wonderful to have an e-digital user community somehow. The problem is that when folks are coming in through the internet, you don't see them, as opposed to the patrons who are coming in every week and getting the books that they need to read, and you can see who they are, and you can recommend to them, and you can purchase for them, and so on and so forth. That's kind of a huge disconnect.
Do you have, well, I know maybe Carissa can talk a little bit about the Google Analytics and the statistics you can get, but that's a separate kind of idea. But do you have a way to gather, do you have a newsletter list, for example, that you could have people sign up to and be able to you could encourage them to sign up by saying that, I don't know, they could have a say in almost creating a kind of community like this for your digital research, they have a say in collection development, or maybe you even could do something once every quarter, have a Zoom call or something like this where people can share what they want and start to feel like they have something invested in the library, even though they don't go to the library.
That's the direction we see ourselves going toward. So we have one full-time employee in the library, and that's the library director. And the rest of us are part-time, in one way or another, circ desk, or in my case, the cataloger / anything that has to do with technology, and the children's librarian. So I think where I see us right now is really mining deeply to try and get the names and the emails of the folks who are active e-media users. I've gotten from Biblio a dump of all of the emails of the Deep River Public Library patrons, current patrons, so we can do more of a broadcast and kind of build it that way. But I think it's going to take some time. Newsletters are wonderful if you have somebody who has the time to do them and they're good at it. But they have to be continuous, and you have to, people need to begin to trust them and to kind of look forward to them coming. We tried a bit with WOW, and we really got WOW because of the carousel feature on the home page to say what are we currently acquiring, but it turns out people don't really look at that. People, who looks at their email these days?
I mean,
We
I
look
think
at it when kids don't.
yeah, kidding.
Right. So
Yeah.
you take out the J and the YA community, boom, they're off the table. And the older community does, but they, if it's not there and it's not consistent and it's not reasonable, they're gonna dump it as well. So it's a very interesting situation and an interesting time, actually. But you were right on that. Heather, the idea of connecting directly. And honestly, it's kind of I come from an academic library environment. So public libraries are kind of I've been a public library user forever. Thinking about it as a public librarian is different than thinking about it as an academic librarian. They're two different situations. So not everybody puts their email down.
Yeah, and that's certainly a tricky conversation and a slippery slope. So, one thing I do want to be very transparent about, Patrick, is that SimplyE and the Circ Manager aren't capturing patron data. Like, that's the exact opposite of the morals and the values built into the technology.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, like it's purposely not collecting that level of patron data, knowing me, Carissa Egan, is sitting in upstate New York, and here's my personal Gmail account. So the circulation manager, and if you opt for the additional integration with Google Analytics, you will see trends and anonymized data and access, but it won't report to you your patron barcode, for instance, who's having all of the checkouts. And I think that's where the broader discussions in across public libraries is how do you reach those kind of anonymous patrons? I mean, really, at the end of the day, your ILS is your sole source that you, the library, control over your patrons' data.
Right.
And as a technology hosting provider, LYRASIS in particular, as a not-for-profit, takes a pretty hard stance that we are not going to capture your patrons' data. That is something that maintaining that information and maintaining those relationships, or establishing and then maintaining those relationships, is kind of the key, the one of the key tenets of the public library's role. And to the extent that we can provide technology that gives you data to help with maintaining those relationships, we'll do that in the technology. But it's not unlike the other kind of for-profit vendors in the space who are using all of your data to then, turn around and sell titles to the individual patrons, or sell that data to other for-profit players. That's something that, specifically with this project, with LYRASIS in particular, and I think the overall goal of SimplyE is to not be yet another one of those vendors who are going to steal all of your individual patrons' data and sell it back to you.
I get that. That's fair. I appreciate that. I mean, actually, it's really not a lot different than the other vendors. It's just that with a lot of extra work, the librarian can determine, who, especially in a small community like this, you kind of know the people if you do the work. But that's good to know. I mean, the other part of it is, really, how can we direct? We're kind of getting into this. There's this huge shift in my little town in the past year, of people moving from New York to Deep River and working from home and needing to support their work from home. And when they need to get at, it becomes a little bit more like an academic library, and that they're looking for professional information. They're not looking for, there's always the kind of weird balance of more people are interested in fiction than they are in nonfiction. Although there's a lot more nonfiction out there than there is fiction. So you're kind of, it's this kind of weird balance. But so thank you. I get it. When that's kind of what I saw when I went into the the circulation manager. But I was just kind of trying to figure out what's going on there. Trends is good, Trends is good. Kind of would be nice to know where my community are finding what they're looking for from the state library's collection that they're making available, and so on and so forth. But we'll see what happens. We'll push it until it breaks and then come up with something else.
It's funny. It's been a continual problem, and I worked in public libraries for over 20 years. And, we always found that the communication piece was a challenge that you needed to come up with solutions for. And you had to come up with a multi-pronged attack. And even then, you would have the most wonderful program and people wouldn't show up at the level that you would have expected. And so the same is true with a product like SimplyE. You have to try to market it. And, social media is an avenue, newsletters are an avenue, different email blasts and communications, word of mouth. I used to live in Deep River and I still have family connections there. And I know the type of town it is. And it's a place where word of mouth actually could be really effective.
Word of mouth is huge in Deep River.
Yeah, it's a tough time for that because of the pandemic, but you really do have to look at SimplyE and marketing it like any other challenge you have with your library and marketing your resources. So you really have to look at multiple avenues, and it could be anything from, look at our multi-use items, simultaneous use items that we have, and then organize Zoom book club meetings, that type of thing, utilizing the app and our simultaneous use items. Little things like that can just get it out there. And typically, if you can get enough people to participate, it starts to snowball, and you really start to gather more and more users as time goes by smaller initiatives like that aren't that daunting when you really think about it.
Right.
As long as you have an interested facilitator, say for a book club.
Right. Okay, thank you. All right. I'm not going to say anything more about this general amorphous problem, but thank you for your time. I appreciate it and your thoughts.
Problem.
Thank you. No, it's a good inquiry to be having. I think, everybody's in this position thinking about this kind of situation. So it's not like we said, it's not something that we're going to solve today, but it's good to be in the inquiry about it and to, hopefully get some ideas going. So yeah. Awesome. Thank you for being here and for taking part and for contributing and for asking a question. I see there's somebody who's just on as assistant director. I'm not sure if you have a question or comment, but feel free to hop in if you do.
No, I'm good. I was just interested in finding out what everyone else was experiencing. We just went live last week. I'm still planning out the big launch of trying to figure out everything and how to acknowledge that with my staff and do a little training. And so I'm just at the very beginning of the process. So I thought I would log in and hear what some of the concerns were and see if I could pick up any good tips. So
awesome. Last week we had a talk with Mysum New from Ferguson, did a little lunchtime chat, and I put it up in both on our YouTube channel and in the hub, the online community hub, the recording of it. And she had a really successful launch and shared a lot of different things that they did that were successful. So you might want to take a look at that. It wasn't actually that long, but she shared a lot of juicy nuggets in like 20 minutes. So I can make sure you know about that. Yeah, and if you need anything, that's kind of why I'm here too, to help with providing materials. And we've got like some newsletter text and press release text and all of that kind of stuff too. So
yeah, I started looking through some of that and started pulling together something. I think we're looking to like roll it out to the patrons the 1st of February, kind of fall in love with a new book in time for Valentine's Day using SimplyE. So that's kind of the idea that we're going for. So we'll see.
I have it on my list to make some Valentine's Day images to share. So
please, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
And what library are you with?
Oxford Public Library.
Oxford. Okay, great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that especially when we were doing the face-to-face sessions, I would speak to a lot of people and they were nervous about rolling the app out to their patrons. And, I always said, roll out the way you want to do it. You don't have to do, sort of a large scale rollout. You can do it in a smaller fashion, again, like to your staff and maybe some super users at first. So that people can get the opportunity to test the app out and also test their ability to help. Your staff needs to know how to help people. So that's
what we're sort of focusing on this month is getting the staff to download it and play with it and figure out how to use it and how they want to talk about it in their different avenues. Obviously, the children's librarian versus the adult side and has different focuses and things. So that's what we're focusing on now is, do we know how to use it? Do we know how to answer questions about it? That kind of thing. So so far it's been easy enough to focus on those things. And we do e-newsletters and constant contact for our programming and rolling out information. So we have like 1,800 emails. I'm going to blast it out too. So we should be okay with that part of it. It's just, I really like the idea of doing the book discussion idea using the multi-user copies. So I'm going to investigate that. That was a really good tip.
Yeah, we have a list of multiple, simultaneous use, perpetual ownership items that we have on the website. So I can send that over to you as well so that you have direct access to it.
That'd be great, Brad, if you could send that to me.
Yeah, no problem.
Nobody else has hopped on since then. So yeah, I hear Janet says we have an email blast, but I don't think it gets to the majority of those who would be interested. Word of mouth is great after we announce it on webpage, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, we do that too. We announce it on Facebook, and that seems to be our best bet here in Oxford. That it tends to get around. So we use that a lot.
Great. Very good. Cool. Well, let's see. Yeah, like nobody else has come on. So if we can just keep it open here, if people still want to have chats and speak and solve world problems, engage in deep discussions, deep philosophical discussions about marketing and things like that. But certainly don't feel like you need to be here the whole time. This is just an informal way for us to chat and to see what's up and be here for people who have questions.
Has anybody had any blowback? Is one of the questions that just occurred to me. For those people that are used to using, say, the Libby app and then going to SimplyE and they're getting confused as to which app do they go to now? Can they still use Libby and all that kind of stuff? Have you had a lot of feedback from that and how that's gone?
I think that's one of the fears that a lot of libraries had, especially initially when we started to share information about SimplyE with folks, is that the multiple apps, RB Digital, the Libby app, people are going from app to app, and we always said the idea of SimplyE is so that once you're comfortable with it, you can actually just use SimplyE, because really the majority of the content should be findable there.
Right.
But we also said that, when people are really comfortable with, say, the Libby app or another app, and they want to continue to use it, I mean, they certainly can do that because you can use multiple apps at one time. But that is
Right.
where I think troubleshooting and providing customer service to your patrons can become a little bit of a challenge, where you have to explain, the overall concept to them. And even we have challenges doing that as we're trying to explain the concept to librarians. So it can be a bit of work. And I think that's one of the things that's so great about LYRASIS and what Heather is doing, is a lot of the sort of the marketing and the explanatory type materials that are needed are being produced and made available to you to deliver to your patrons too. So I think that's
I actually had that experience where I had a patron call me. They were having trouble getting in to see their ebook, and it took me about 10 minutes, a good reference interview before she finally cracked and said, oh, and I finally figured out she was talking about the state library ebooks and not the Libby or the other, and so obviously at the time it was a separate thing. This was like a few weeks ago back. The interface was different. So I said, oh, now it makes sense why you and I are not on the same page. So I was wondering if anyone had any kind of experiences like that moving into SimplyE where it was difficult to explain, well, this is how you're going to see it on this, and this is how you're going to see it on that. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, you really do get those questions where the question is presented in one way and you find out really the question is coming from a
Yes.
different, different app or a different
Exactly.
different resource, and you have to sort of navigate that in the reference interview, which
Mm-hmm.
can really be challenging. And I'm doing that sometimes with librarians who are, they're very, smart, they're very capable of a great reference interview themselves. But it's, because there's so much information out there that we all have to try to be knowledgeable about. I think sometimes, we don't all take the time to just do a little bit of the legwork and the research to try to understand. And that's why we do try to, again, I think the community, the LYRASIS community that's set up is a great place to ask questions and share information. But the EGO website too does have, has the videos from the trainings and that type of thing. And sometimes, I mean, what I have to do when I'm trying to recollect something, because, for some things I have to learn everything all over again, So I'll go
Yes.
back and I'll find the resources and sort of review them again. And then, okay, yeah, now I have enough expertise to share.
I
it with
find myself doing that constantly with the technology customer service. It's like, wait a minute, I have to go back and find out what was that again? So
Yeah.
like you said, I will watch it again because I can't keep it all in my head. There's just too much. It changes too fast now. So.
Yeah, it really does. So that's to me, that's the best option, is just, realize that we only have so much space up here to have everything, and go back and review everything. And we'll make sure we try to put the resources up for you so that when you do want to review it, it's available and easy to find.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to compliment you all on. The resources have been great this time. I sometimes feel when things are rolled out, it's like there's not enough stuff, but this time I feel comfortable. So thank you for that.
So that's great to hear.
I'm so happy to hear that. That's great.
So, all right, I am going to go because I have to cover lunch, but thank you all. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Right, you do the same, and I'll be emailing you.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. All right. I think
I think
other
it's just us.
It's just us. Yep.
I
Just
wonder if like making some kind of flow chart for librarians for reference to figure out what app are they talking about, like some kind of quick reference guide, like, because for it to take 10 minutes to kind of figure out what app we're even talking about seems like a long time. So you probably make an assumption at the beginning they're talking about Libby or talking about Overdrive. I don't know if that's possible, but that just popped into my mind as something that might be useful.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We should try to come up with something like that. Even, sometimes just a little cheat sheet about the various streams of content that we have. I think we've done a pretty good job of unifying the loan periods and that type of thing, but I know someone at a session had requested that as well. Could I just have a little sheet that tells me, who the vendor is, how long their loan period is, how many holds I can do, things like that. So how many checkouts, all that type of stuff. So little pieces of information like that kind of put into a consolidated place, I think would be helpful. So that's something we can work on for sure. Hi, Mary from Scotland.
I was gonna say
Hi.
hello. You you were you hopped on, everybody had left, and so we started talking internally, and then there you came. So we're like, hey, a person. So hello.
Yeah, I had a feeling I was going to miss out on a lot, but I figured I'd join when I could.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just curious if we just recently purchased some Microsoft Surface Go tablets for the library that are running Microsoft Edge. And I noticed that SimplyE isn't in their store. Do you have any suggestions? Is it going to be available at any time soon, or?
Not that I am aware of, Mary, that there's any work to
Okay.
make a SimplyE version of the app that's available on Microsoft devices. Right now, it's an Apple and an Android. The actual technology that's released is only available in Apple programming language to go into the App Store, and then an Android version to go on Android devices. And I'm not familiar enough personally with
Okay.
Microsoft. With the Microsoft tablets to even postulate that you might be able to like side load something on there. So I'd hesitate to say anything.
Yeah, I was doing, yeah, I did a search, and I guess there is a way you can circumvent Microsoft Edge. But once you do, you never get it back again. And I don't know how important that is for that device. I mean, if you need updates, you probably need access to Microsoft Edge. So yeah, I'm kind of reluctant to do it. I just didn't know if this was something in the works.
Yeah, no.
And okay. And I know, Carissa, you were nice enough to respond to all my concerns about a week or so ago. Have you heard any more on any of those items, like the classic literature not downloading? And
yes, let me bring up your
I know I had a whole list of things, and Brad, I tried deleting things, I deleted the app and reinstalled the app, and my coworker did. I have patrons who've done it on their phones, and they did the same thing, and we're just running into some roadblocks.
Yeah.
Audio works great. I mean, anybody who wants an audio book.
the issues. So I had summarized 5.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were with, or at least one of them, regardless. The issues you were experiencing with the open content, my colleague should be fixing this week.
Okay.
So that should be resolved shortly. Let's see. There was a title that was slow to download, and from Baker and Taylor, I think you said Elfie. And then there was another title where the cover page only loaded. So I have my colleague who's starting to track those down. I will say slow to download is a really hard error to troubleshoot because it can be so many different things causing it, and it can be transient as well. So I'm not sure that we'll have a solution for that, but for the one title that only had a cover page loading, if you see any other example titles where that's the case, let me know. It might just be an issue with that one particular title from Baker and Taylor. The open items that were having failure to download errors, that should be resolved this week. And then you mentioned there was one, you said a title called The Nightingale. There were some download errors, and I had sent a follow-up email to confirm if you meant The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, or if it was like another title that had Nightingale in it that we weren't looking at.
Yeah, and I didn't respond because I figured it looked like you were going to get back to me at some point, and then when I saw the meeting today, I said, well, maybe I'll just bring it up today. But yeah, I had a patron who tried to download that and wasn't able to.
Okay, so let me double check to see what the vendor is for that particular title. It might be another issue that we're fighting as well, but I will confirm that should be resolved this week. And then the last thing is a known issue regarding Baker and Taylor content, and that is, although it appears in SimplyE that you can return the titles, you actually can't. They sit on your bookshelf until the loan expires. And that's something that the New York Public Library, who is the main developer of the mobile apps, is aware of. Baker and Taylor, in their API that SimplyE is interacting with, doesn't have an early return capability right yet. So one of 2 things either needs to happen. Baker and Taylor needs to add that API so you can return books early, or the New York Public Library needs to take that return button out of the app for just Baker and Taylor content. I don't have a time frame for either of those at this stage, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
and testing out some of this is difficult because I tried to get 3 different Bronte books, And then I figured, well, you know what, if I can't get those, maybe I'll just grab some children's books, because I know they're quick and easy, and I can go through them and make sure that it's working, rather than get an adult chapter book that, you know, I might not get to right away. So I think I just filled up my library with way too much. And then I wanted to double check some of the things that I asked you about, and I couldn't get anything else. I had exceeded my limits. So that's why I was trying to return things and get them out of my library. You know, I wasn't able to do that. And then just now, and I don't know if that, again, I'm late to the meeting, so maybe this was already talked about, but I went to look at the children's and middle grade chapter books, and, you know, they come across the screen. I just hit more, and all of this adult nonfiction came up. The first book was like Sir Isaac Newton, and I mean, there was like just a whole screen full of adult nonfiction. So, yeah.
I'm pulling up your library now to see if I can recreate this on the fly. So
Okay.
you said you clicked on
There's the children and middle grade readers.
Yep.
Or middle grade chapter books. And then off to the right, it has a plus sign, it says more. And I just clicked on that thinking, well, I'll look and see what else is available. And it was all, like I said, it was all adult nonfiction rather than picture books.
I'm not seeing that. What type of device are you on? iOS or
An
Android?
iPad.
You're on iPad. Okay. Yeah, because it's showing picture books, easy readers, chapter books.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you mean. No. I see. Okay. Yep. Nope. That is an issue. Okay. Let's see. Does it do for picture books as well? Oh, picture books loads fine. It's just
Yeah,
easy readers and chapter books.
And chapter books.
Oh,
yeah.
poetry books also gives you some random things
Oh.
in there. It looks like. Don't think Aurora Lee by Elizabeth Barrett Browning is a poetry. Well, maybe it is a poetry book. All right, what are we seeing in chapter books? Yes, The System of the World by Isaac Newton. I don't think that is a children and middle grade chapter book. Okay, I see. I think that's just a metadata algorithm in the background incorrectly categorizing some of these items, like A Defense of Free Thinking in Mathematics by George Berkeley, not the children middle grade chapter book, but I'll file a ticket with our tech team for that as well. Oh wow, there is a lot of really interesting correspondence from the seat of war in Italy. So children middle grade chapter book. Interesting. Okay. Actually, let me just see something here. Okay. I will get back to you on that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for bringing all of that up, Mary. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, no problem. Like I said, you know, I've had patrons that are so excited for this, and then they'll call me, or I noticed that to log a concern or complaint or whatever, it goes back to the email address that I registered with for SimplyE for the library. So I get all the comments and there's nothing I can do about it. So I just kind of been making notes. And I don't know if I can't remember exactly where on the screen, but there's a spot where you can report something.
Yes, it's
But it
on the
goes back
account
to-
screen. Yep.
Yeah.
And the idea
It
is
comes-
that, yeah, it should go to the library, because if there are issues with a patron logging in, like their barcode has expired or something, that's something that like LYRASIS will never be able to help with, because we don't have control
Oh,
of your
true.
iOS.
Okay.
But if you have specific things that are happening in SimplyE that you cannot troubleshoot, that has nothing to do with the patron barcode, Just like you did in the ticket that's open, just add a
Right.
whole list of all of the items if you just want to itemize them for me so I can kind of
Okay.
keep track, and just shoot them to our support system, and then we can look from there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, Carissa. I didn't even stop to think about my interaction with my patrons because everything was related to, I can't download this book. So I thought that's what that feature was for when you're having trouble downloading something. But that makes sense that somebody might need to contact me if their account isn't up to speed or they can't log in or something else.
Exactly. So,
Okay, I
and
got
patrons could foreseeably see issues, error messages in the app, and it will say like your barcode is no longer active, or
Right.
does your library doesn't have a PIN, right? But if you do have a PIN.
We do, yeah.
Many Connecticut libraries don't, so and I don't have it memorized. But if their PIN is inactive for some reason, or if they've forgotten their PIN, those are other common things that LYRASIS wouldn't be able to troubleshoot, not being
Right.
on your ILS.
Yeah.
But all of
And
these
that
issues
makes
so
sense,
far
yeah.
have been SimplyE specific. So
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was about it for me. Just, like I said, a lot of patrons very excited about this. And I was nervous about how to unroll this, but my staff and I just made a couple of little cheat sheets and like quick and easy. This is what you need to do. Make sure you have your account, your barcode, and your password with you, or your PIN. And so far, folks haven't reported any trouble getting on. It's just once they're on, getting the content that they want.
Yeah, great. Hopefully we can get some of that sorted out. Thank you. All right. Anything else, Mary? Is that it?
No, I think that's it. I know I really hate getting on and complaining.
No,
Because I'm so excited about this, but yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you're excited. And that's totally what this session is here for, is to get all of your feedback and, give you a chance to bring all that stuff up in a way that is a little bit easier than maybe chasing emails and things. So that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, we had a couple interesting discussions earlier on before you came on. So we're taping this meeting, so I'll put a recording up, or I'll put the recording link up later on. So if you want to go back and talk about marketing and some different ways of helping people know that it's there. And we talked about a couple of things, so I'll go ahead and put that up. But no, we really appreciate you coming and sharing your experience. That's what it's here for.
Yeah, no problem. I do have one other quick question. Our library, we just can't afford to add any other content, but libraries that have purchased other resources, is this all are you tying all of this into SimplyE? Okay.
Yeah, that's what the beauty of SimplyE is that you can just go to this one place and have everything. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, because I think actually my hometown library has a lot more to offer than I do here in Scotland. We have such a small budget. So, this is just really a wonderful thing for us. But I think my hometown library has even more. So I didn't know if everything got bundled in. So that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. That's why it was originally created, to have this place where everything could be just in one place. So it'll be I'll look forward to hearing what your thoughts are as a user with your hometown library then.
Yeah, I don't know if they've gotten it up and running yet, but
what is your hometown library? I can tell you.
Canterbury Public Library.
No.
I know the director reached out to me not too long ago and asked how things went for Scotland getting up and running. It was so easy. Carissa asked me some questions. I sent the questions to Autographics. They responded, and I sent them back to you, and we were up and running in no time. So it's fairly straightforward, but I don't know if she actually moved forward with it yet.
She did. I'm sitting on her configuration information. I just need to get it implemented, and they'll be ready.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Awesome.
Something Tara and I will be doing probably tomorrow, actually. Canterbury, and it was so funny that you mentioned that. They're on my list. I have a little checklist right next to me. Canterbury and Valentine.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Are on the list for this week.
Good. All right. Well, I probably will try to get some other work done this afternoon, but thank you so much for, listening to all my concerns and answering all my questions.
Well, we're an
That's-
email away, Mary. Thank you for your patience. And it's so nice to
Oh.
put a face to the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
Great.
Mary.
All right. Thank you. Now you can all watch me as I try to find the leave button on here.
Oh, that's funny. Do you ever notice that when you're on calls and it's like, okay, I'm going to say goodbye now. And then you have to kind of keep the smile frozen while you're like looking.
Yes.
Okay.
Classic.
Cool. Well, look, we filled up almost the whole hour, you guys.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Fun times.
And hopefully we'll get more folks to join the community. I think that's, I talked about that in our, let's see, I've done so many presentations lately, but I think in the PLA webinar that Chris and I did, we talked about that a little bit. And also we had there was a directors roundtable here and in Connecticut, and that was really well attended. So I talked about, just the support angle, because I know a lot of librarians do have that fear that the support isn't there. And something like this does provide a level of marketing support, training support, and just this alone to be able to come on this session and ask questions is hugely helpful. I mean, I wish I had that for everything I have to do in my job, where I could, oh, you know what, there's going to be a monthly meeting and I can get on and ask questions. It doesn't always exist. So I think this is really helpful.
Good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yeah, I think the more as the posts and stuff in there are starting to get a little bit more engagement and interaction. It takes some time for people to hop on and to realize what it is. So I think it'll come. I don't doubt that. So
yeah, and definitely as we get more libraries jumping on board, which we are, it's growing right now at the fastest rate I think we've seen since we began about a year ago. So it's really moving forward, which is great.
awesome. So cool. All right, you guys, should we give it another 2 minutes? Have it 6:58 my time, 12:58 for you. It's funny being 6 hours ahead. I can tell you the future.
Ooh. What's it like living in the future?
I really wanted election results here this past fall. Like, come on, Heather,
Aw.
you must know, you have totals, right? You have some states already that you know the results for.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now we want the inauguration results, right?
Yes,
Tomorrow
exactly.
is a peaceful and successful day.
Yes, we're almost there, thankfully.
Getting there.
Almost.
I love your backgrounds, Tara.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been having some fun, with the digital backgrounds. I'm
Yeah.
also like creating my real background. It's not as
Okay.
exciting though, but I wanted to get some plants and I wanted to get, like some interesting things happening behind me.
Yeah,
So
that's cool.
I'm almost there.
Let's see. I downloaded a virtual background that have been scared to try because I didn't know how it was going to turn up, but
You can try it now.
I just got it. I was poking around on Canva now. They have all these amazing,
Yes.
here we go. Natural Cafe professional Zoom background. Let's see if this does anything. Oh, look at
There
that.
we
Oh,
go.
that's cute.
Well, have an espresso, please. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. From the $10,000 espresso machine you have behind
Right.
you.
I was like, this is where I'd like to be working right now.
Can we just say that whoever gets to name these backgrounds has like the best job ever? What was it? Cafe professional, working professional. Like that was
Professional Cafe. Yeah. Natural Cafe professional Zoom virtual background. That's a big mouthful.
they got all the metadata, all the right tags in there.
Right.
You just need to have like little CGI people walking around like baristas calling out names and orders and stuff. All right, I'm going back to my regular. That's
fun.
It's funny. All right, well, I have that it's 1 o'clock.